my presentation today. We have Bruce Kern, one of our consultants who's very proficient in this, this application, who's going to be showing us the product today. This is one of the replacements for the FRX report writer that's been retired by Microsoft, I believe last year. It's been a year already. But with all of that, I'm going to turn this over to Bruce and let him show us what we've got going on.
Okay, welcome everybody. And as Sherry said, this is going to kind of be an overview, if you will, of the Sage Mass Intelligence. There's a lot of different things we're going to kind of go through today, any one of which we could probably spend a whole class on. So the idea here is to kind of give you a kind of an overview on what some of the capabilities are, give you a flavor for it. As she said, it is Sage's choice to replace the FRX. And what it is, it's basically an Excel-based reporting tool that will allow us to do some things like FRX used to do, financial reporting. But it also is going to give us the capability, as you'll see in the demo today, to do some types of reporting that are not necessarily strictly limited to financial reports. And so with that in mind, we're going to kind of get started. So there are some different components to the Sage Mass Intelligence, and one of the things that you'll notice here is that I'm right in the new Sage 100 ERP 2014 version, and one of the biggest changes to Sage Intelligence from any prior version to this point is that the Sage Intelligence reporting is now built right into the Mass Sage 100 module listing. Pardon me for saying Mass. I still think of it as Mass 90 and Mass 200, but it's called Sage 100 today. And as you can see, there are four or five components here. We have the report manager, which is where we're going to be spending most of our time today. That is the primary portal to author reports and also lets you run predefined reports that comes with the system. That's going to be the main place we're going to be living today in our demo. The report viewer basically is able to view reports, but you don't get the design capability there. You'll see that there is a security manager. That's for defining various security into various reports. There's a license manager that deals with your user licenses. So if you were to buy more people, we would have to go in and update your license, that kind of thing. The connector is a cool piece. What that does is Sage Intelligence uses this concept of data containers. And these are sort of like the Business Insights Explorer views, for those of you who are familiar with that, where it's kind of pre-grouped a series of tables that they're calling a data container, and then it allows you to select the data container and then pull data out of those. So with that particular tool, you can select data containers, and you can also combine data containers to do some advanced reporting. So that's kind of an overview on what the pieces do. And as I mentioned, since we're in the 2014 latest and greatest version here, we're able to access these just right through the menu, right built in. If you're on a version prior to this, you would actually have the Sage Intelligence would live outside of the core Sage menu here. A lot of people drag the shortcut icons up to the top, like you see I have up here for the report manager. Okay. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to get into the report manager a little bit. And what we're going to do, we're just going to go ahead and launch that. And we'll see that it's coming up here. And so this is your basic interface. I'll just make this a little bigger so we can kind of see it here. Maybe drop everything else down out of the way for us. So what we've got here is the report manager. This is, again, the part where you can run a bunch of stock reports that come with the system, and we're going to be looking at several of those. It gives you some copy and paste ability to, which then allows you to modify the reports. So, for example, if I were to go into any one of these reports, we'll see that the report's actually locked for editing, and we'll be able to see that you know, when we copy these reports, we'll be able to unlock them and make changes to them. Okay, so the way the orientation goes here, you have a series of folders on the left, sort of like a Windows Explorer does, and then you'll see information on the right. So this happens to be a locked report, so you're not seeing a bunch of information. If I look at one of my more custom reports that I've already been playing with, you'll see that I have actual access and I can see the information there. Let's see here. You'll notice that there's some icons in the various reports in the default out of the can ones as I expand them. Some of them have green icons, some of them have blue icons. The ones with blue icons are considered the standard reports. The ones with the green icons are called union reports. It's really just a terminology thing. The union reports are basically a conglomeration of more than one report, so they're a little bit more advanced. So if you're wondering why they have different colors, that's the reason why. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do here is what most people do is they will tend to create their own custom folders for things. So for today's demo, we're just going to add a folder, and we're going to call this Bob's Reports. Okay, and these are one-level folders, so you don't get to have subfolders underneath there. And we're going to come down here and we're going to find a report that we want. We're going to look for we're going to do customer sales. We're going to just pick this one right here, and we're going to copy it. And you notice there's a copy button up above. So depending on if you like the right clicks or if you prefer to do this way. So I'll paste that right in here. And it wants to have a unique name, so I'm going to give it copy 2. And now that that's in there, it's no longer locked. So the reports can have the same name as another report, but they will always have a unique report ID. So that's just something to be aware of. And then we're going to go ahead and run this report, and then we're going to make a few changes to it. So to run the reports, you know, we've got a nice little simple ribbon up here. We're just going to click the run. And we're going to pick our dates. Now we're using demonstration data, and the demonstration data is dated 2010. So you'll see throughout the day today, if I'm paying attention to what I'm doing here, I'll be remembering to go back to the year 2010. So we're just going to come back here to May 1st, and then we'll pick the end of the month as well. Okay, now we're going to let it run. And you'll see that it's giving us a little indication that it's doing something here. And it's also got a little status bar at the bottom. And it's, you know, how long it takes just kind of depends on the particular report. So we'll let this thing run out. Okay, so here's the report. Something you'll see a lot is these kind of like data filters. So you can use that to select certain data within the report. You'll see them up above. So if I were to tell it I want to be able to select on these, say I want to see Jim's activity only, I can pick just Jim. It will then filter the report accordingly. All right. Put it back to stock here. Okay, so what I did is I just we're gonna try adding a couple fields to the report here. So we're gonna come over here to the pivot table field list, and we're just gonna click on a couple items here. I'm gonna try invoice number and invoice date, and we could you know, mess around with more of the pivot table settings. Mostly the point is just to show you that we were able to add those fields. So the fields that were available there, they're based on how the report was built on the front end. So we could have gone back and, you know, if we didn't see something we needed, we could potentially have added the column that we want to get. Now let's say that we like this report. This is going to be something we want to save for our company, but we don't necessarily like this color scheme, and we don't necessarily like the fact that it's got the Sage logos all over it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cut that guy out of there. That one's actually a hyperlink. We're going to cut that one out of there. And we're going to make a cosmetic change here. We're going to insert our own logo. And I think I've got a logo over here. There's the generic ABC logo. We'll just take that and we'll put it on up there like that. Now we can also, maybe do some other kind of formatting here. We'll just see if we can get something here. We'll do a little blue theme, blue and white theme here. And then just using your basic Excel functionality, we can just apply those formats to the various areas that we want. And there we are. We made some changes. That last one didn't format too cleanly, but that was kind of what I call the quick and dirty. All right, let's say if we wanted to save this report like this, so this was a keeper. We made a couple changes. The concept here is that you need to save and relink this to the template by which it ran by. So really simple process. All we have to do is just kind of drop this out of the way. We'll come up to the report here that we're working on, and we'll simply tell it to save the Excel template. And then if we have more than one Excel file open, there'll be a list of them. We pick the appropriate one, we click OK. And then it'll give us a couple prompts here about, you sure you want to save this template? We'll just accept the defaults, and there it goes. And let's see here, we've got a compatibility checker. We do have, my environment is a little quirky. I have some things installed here that technically are not even compatible. So hopefully it won't break on us too many times through the demo. But now when we run this report, we'd be able to see those changes in there. And that's kind of the concept of copying a standard report, making a few changes to it, and being able to then rerun it. Okay, so now we're going to look at some different style reports now. So let's see here. Let's look at some financials. Most of the people who are using Sage Intelligence, it seems to be that they are primarily interested in financials. All right, let's run this union report here. And we'll give it our date information and a budget code. And we'll let it run. Now this is a report that, is a canned report, and because I haven't saved this previously and mapped it to my particular accounting system, my particular GL structure, it's going to want some of that information up at the beginning here. So you notice there's a set of instructions, and this is common on many of the Sage Intelligence reports. And if you want to, look at some information about how to do any of this, it gives you pretty thorough instructions on a lot of things. So I'm not going to really get into the instructions too much. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty working into this guy here. So what this part here I'm doing is, because this again was a stock report, it doesn't necessarily know how to map these codes. So I'm going to go ahead and just map these in here real quick, and then it'll know how to group the data for our reports that we're going to run. And again, we could save this back, and we wouldn't have to do this in the subsequent passes. And if I haven't missed any of these, we should hopefully be able to run the report at this point. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come over to our menu tab, and we're just going to see that there's various different reports that come with this particular report that we can run. So that's part of why it's a union report, because it has a lot of different reports in it. We're just going to run this first one here. We'll take the default name, and we'll let it do its thing. So based on the categories that I mapped and the report that I picked, it's now going out and retrieving the data. And it's just about done. Okay. It says it was successful. That's a good thing. So another thing that you'll notice on a lot of the Sage Intelligence reports, the pre-built ones particularly, is they will come with different sort of report detail options. So we're on the 1 here. You notice there's a little 1 and a 2. This one, obviously the 2, is the more fully expanded version of that. So you can quickly go back and forth. You could also just manually shrink these things up or expand them as you choose. So those are just sort of pre-condensed or pre-expanded toggles there. Okay, so an interesting concept here is that, let's see if we're going to go take a look here. We're just going to do a drill down here. And when this comes up, notice it's wanting to select for period 12. So I don't even know if period 12 has any data in it. So I'm just going to go ahead and run it. We'll see what we get. But this is how a drill down would work. Okay, it didn't find anything. It's demo data. But that's actually a good thing because I get to show you how to change the period now. I mentioned that this is demo data, and it's actually in period 5. So when I ran this, it ran it for the whole year. So if I want to change this to period 5, I just come up here to the change period option, and then I can try the drill down. Now I can see period 5 here on the right has numbers in it. So in theory, we should be able to drill down on that. So I'm just going to drill down again and see if this one doesn't actually give me some data here. It looks like we were more successful this time. Okay, so there is the details that made up the number in period 5, and here you can see the kind of the period ending date, and it's showing us they're all period 5 of 2010, and we can see various entries that have happened there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and run a different report next. And I'm not going to save that one. Let's look at this trend analysis report. Show you a couple different things on this one here. Okay, so now this one is kind of like a blank template, if you will. So if I come down here to the box where it's going to let me pick the GL account, I'll go ahead and find one here that I think might have some data for us. And we'll pull it in, and then we'll see a couple little things here that we can do with that. Okay, so in it comes. Now this has what's called a dynamic drill down. So in a previous report, we did what was called a static drill down, which means that the drill down we did was based on whatever the report thought the current period was. So when we ran the report out for the whole year, it thought it was period 12. That's the one where it didn't actually have any data yet. When we changed it back to period 5, we drilled down and had the data. This drill down here is a dynamic drill down. You don't have to change the period at all. All you have to do with this one is click on any period, any cell with data in it, and then you can hit this drill down, and it'll actually give you the data right there. So it's a little bit more dynamic. And there's the drill down, again, for period 5. It's also cool because you can actually do it on the prior year stuff as well. So if I wanted to even drill down on the prior year cell right there, I'll probably pick period 5 again just in case. Then I can also drill down on that. Okay. Now with the chart here, you can do a couple of quick things as well. If you hit the paintbrush here, you can pick some different styles, so you can change up how the charts and the graphs look. So you have control over that as well. Some of them I don't like the color schemes on, so you can, again, it's Excel, so you can pretty much control the whole thing. That was a real simple, quick change I just made. Okay, we're not going to save this one. On to another report. Let's take a look at a dashboard report. We'll run this dashboard analysis. Actually, we'll just go all the way back to January, I think, on this one. Okay. Give it a budget. Okay, and up it comes. Okay, so dashboard reports tend to have some graphs and data, in them. So we're going to do see another type of drill down here. Here's a customer. We're just going to come down here and hit drill down on that particular customer, and it's giving us our information here. We're going to go ahead and say execute. Now you got to be careful. Some of these drill downs are multifunction. So I'm trying to drill down on a customer, so I'm going to pick the by customer, not by item. So we'll let that run. And there's a drill down for that. There's also one for the items. So if I was to come up here to some of my items, for example, down here, I would also be able to do that and drill down on those. Sort of similarly to some of the other reports here, we can also modify the way these graphs look. Find a style that you like. If I change it to that, I can, change some of the cosmetics. We could change the colors of these graphs. Again, just for presentation purposes. Okay, so that's the dashboard report. Now we're going to talk about the designer a little bit. So this is going to be a tool to let us to build some reports out of predefined lists, and then we can modify those if we want to. So we're going to copy this one. I'm going to put this in Bob's folder here. And there we are. And we're going to go ahead and run that report. Again for 2010. And we're going to map some categories here. So give us a second here and we'll map these in. So we're just associating our GL categories with the row reporting groups for the reports here. And other. Last but not least, here's our taxes. Okay. Okay, so we're going to go BI Tools, and then we're going to do the launch for this type of report. Now, here we're kind of getting into the designer interface, and this is one of two different interfaces where you can design reports, and I think you're going to like the next one better later on in the demo. But the way this one works, we're going to pick a report, and we're just going to kind of run it. And you'll notice this one is very similar to one we looked at earlier, but there are a few changes, and we're going to kind of dive into some of that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the period to period 5, because I know we've got demo data there. And then we're going to talk about doing a drill down. So again, we have the different reporting groups. Now notice this one has 3 groups. The first one we looked at had 2. 3 is going to give us our most expanded version of it. 1 will be fully condensed. 2 is somewhere in between. And then what I'm going to do here is basically we can pick a row, any row with dollars in it that's in the current period that we have selected, and we should just be able to just drill down on that right from here. And sure enough, we can hit the execute on that. And we're going to add some complexity to it next. So the same drill down, not a whole lot new there on that part. Now we're going to talk about a little bit about reporting trees. Okay, so with the way we just ran this report, you know, basically what we have is we have one tab here. It says IS-actual versus budget, and it's got all of our information on it. It's got some nice detail groups for us. But the reporting trees are really going to add a lot of power. And for those of you who have been FRX users, this will seem very familiar to you. So we're going to click on this reporting trees, and we're just going to take a look at, there's a couple trees that I have defined in here already. We're using ABC data, and we're going to kind of review this tree that I have built. And we're going to just kind of expand that so you can kind of see what this interface looks like. So in this scenario, we have some different locations. We have a 3-segment chart of accounts. A main, a department, and a location is our 3rd segment. In this scenario, we're saying that our 00 segment here is a non-location. We have our East Sales Office in the 01. We have the West Sales Office in 02, Central in 03, and Corporate in 04. And you'll notice up here at the top part of that screen on the upper right area, that's where we've kind of defined what those are. So we've told that here's our company code, here's the sort of the wildcards, if you will, that tells us any accounts ending in 00 are the no location, etc. And then we can kind of see that down below. That part's all pretty easy. The real power of it comes over here in this little box to the upper left. So right now we've got it set where the West and the East are kind of reporting underneath of the corporate. But this is pretty cool. We can drag these around however we like. So if I want to put these up here like this, or if I want to put them all on their own, they're all basically separate now. Where we want to end up in our little example here is we want to say that the East and West, for whatever reason internally we decided, they're reporting to the corporate. So we want their numbers to be able to come up separately, but we also want the corporate income statement to be reflective of these other 2 locations as well as the corporate location. So we'll just tuck those underneath there. The other ones, we're going to leave them reporting individually with no roll-up. So that's kind of how we'll do it. And it's a simple drag and drop to put those in any configuration you want. You could even, you can go down as far as you want here. So if I wanted to, roll it, we could do that. Okay, so that's the reporting tree part itself. So we're going to close that guy, and I'm not even going to bother saving the layout. I think we ended up with the same layout we had. And now what we're going to do, we're in the report, we're going to actually add that reporting tree to the report. So to do that, all we've got to do is do the quick edit button here, and we're going to pick the report that we're working on. This is the one that we're working on, and we're right back inside of the report designer now. Now, don't let this interface intimidate you too much. This is a pre-built report, and you can build your own like this. And you can see that's a pretty busy screen, and that has been a complaint of some people, but you're going to like something later really well. But for purposes of running our demonstration today, this is a really easy way to add a reporting tree. We'll just select it, and then we're going to go ahead and just generate the layout. And here, when we have a tree associated with it, we can tell it which elements of the tree, which branches essentially, we want it to do. If I check the one up there at the top, it gives me everything. We're going to go ahead and run it for everything so we can make sure that it's actually splitting this up. And then we'll watch it work. And you can see it's adding the various tabs down there. Looks like it's almost there. Okay. Well, we just produced a whole lot of financial data. Let's take a look. Okay, this was our first report that we did. Actually, back here. That was our first report. This is the consolidated one that came up. So it's basically identical to the first report we ran with no tree. If we look at, let's take a look at the corporate one. That's the one we were most interested in. So here's the corporate one. If we come over here to detail group number 3, we'll notice that, sure enough, it has the west and the east location segments in there with it. So that's worked. Let's take a look at one that we didn't have rolling up. So this one, let's see, the central, that was supposed to be on its own, and sure enough, it has only location 03. So basically, the tree worked beautifully. It rolled up all the numbers into the corporate one that we wanted it to for the east and the west. Well, as long as we're in here, we'll talk about this what-if analyzer real quick, since it's a feature that they've got. You know, it doesn't have the degree of precision that I'm in love with, but for what it does allow you to do some kind of manipulative type things with your financials. So if I string this out, I can kind of see I have all the columns that are in my report. And then if I look at, if I just drag it down here a little bit, if I make my revenue bigger, if I go to the actual, it lets you manipulate. Oh, that doesn't even actually appear to be working at the moment. Okay, so it's supposed to move these figures up and down. That could be part of my compatibility problem. So sorry that doesn't work, but minor feature. Now we're going to talk about the report designer add-in part. And this is the part I think most people seem to like the best. Okay, so we're going to come over here to the report designer add-in. And we're just going to pick this one right here, and we're going to just copy that over to our Bob's reports. Oh, there it goes. A little slow. And then we're going to run this, and we're going to kind of see what we can do with this tool. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so what we got here, again, there's a notes page. We're going to just jump right into it and get a fresh, clean workbook. You notice the thing that we have here that a normal Excel workbook wouldn't have is we have this little pop-out pane, if you will. And it has a couple different components to it. There's a list tab. There's a place for formulas. And then there's also our reporting tree, so the same ones we were seeing in the last report. They're global. So the idea with this is a real true drag and drop type functionality. So we're going to just have some fun with this. We're just going to drag some accounts over, and we're going to kind of show you how this works. So if I drag the main accounts over here, and that's all I got to do to get those over there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of some of the rows we're not going to need. So we're going to focus on balance sheet accounts. We're going to do an income statement example in a little bit. So we'll get rid of all these non-balance sheet accounts. And then really, I don't even know if I need all these descriptions or not, but we'll kind of see what happens here. So for this, probably, the formula that we're going to want, this is all formula-based. Since we're talking about doing a balance sheet, we're going to do a closing balance here. So if I just drag that over there, and I'm going to go ahead and just probably shrink up some of these other columns, kind of get them out of our way so we can focus on the data we want. So if we click into this, the whole idea with this interface is that, they're building blocks for building various different accounts. So I could come right into this account here and type 100 in there in the quotes. So it wants a GL-link, it wants a year, and it wants a period. Those are the three minimal things it has to have. Okay? It may or may not need the company code. Typically, it wouldn't need this and that unless you're doing a consolidated type report. But as you can see, as I hard-coded, if you will, that account number in there, it returned a value. So if I hit OK, and I could even format that and do all the things I like to do in Excel, that's basically how the formula works. But that wouldn't be a very efficient way to write reports because I'd have to go to every single line and do that. So now what we're going to do is just talk about the power of Excel and how it comes into play here. So one of the things we can do is we could use a cell reference here. So I could tell it, you are looks like F4 there, and now it's looking at the cell reference to get the data. So once I've done that, I could simply drag and drop this down, and it would fill the rest of my accounts in for me. Pretty slick. Another thing I could do is I could actually use this to help me with the fiscal period. So maybe I wanted my report to be a little more dynamic, and I want to be able to just have it report on different periods. So I could just put, I could store the period information in any cell I choose to. I put a value in there. And now I'll come over here and we'll take a look at our formula and how the formula works. Really all I have to do here is instead of having the 5 in this box, I would tell it to always look in H1 for the period. So this is where absolute cell referencing comes in. If you haven't been exposed to that, most of us have, the $ will anchor the H, and if I put another $, it will anchor row 1, which means it will always look in that cell to get the period. And then what that does for me, if I bring this down, if I change that period up here now, it changes my numbers. So that's the concept with that. And then see here, what's some other things we could do here? Okay, let's drag some more items out here. So we dragged the main accounts out last time. I'm going to drag the full account this time, and we're going to get rid of some of the crud we don't need for this example. I'll widen this guy up a little bit, and we'll do a formula here. Closing balance. We'll give it some data here. We're just going to give it K5. And we're going to go ahead and bring those down. And we'll give them a little comma formatting. Now what we want to do is talk about how we might combine accounts. So let's see here. Whoops. Okay. Basically what we're doing here is we're just adding some values. And gee whiz, I'll be darned if it doesn't seem like it quite worked. But you should be able to just add accounts by putting them in here. You can also use commas. I got off my example here, so it's not quite working the way I wanted it to. So apologize for that. But any formula also that you pull into Business Insights Sage Intelligence, you can also do a drill down on that. And there's our drill down there. So it isn't just drill downs built in the stock reports. Any formula returned by Sage Intelligence also has a drill down. All right, let's see if we can do something with some wildcards here. All right, let's get back out of this guy. Come back over here to our main sheet. And we'll bring this one over here. And we're going to get rid of the balance sheet accounts. And some of these other columns we don't need. Okay. And then what we'll do here is we will make this formula the actual, and we'll give it some links. And we'll fill it down. And then we're going to pull some main accounts over. Get rid of the columns we don't need. Actually, what we'll do is take these and bring them up. Keep them apples to apples here. Okay. Put our actual formula in here. So we have the same formula. And now we're just going to look at how we might use a wildcard. So in here, sort of like our reporting trees have the wildcards, if I use like the question mark, then basically what it's doing is it's saying, give me all the accounts with 400, that start with 400, any middle segment values, but also end in 01. So we'll say, okay. And then we'll see if we were able to get that. So it looks like that one, that one, and 0301. Those three cells are the ones that meet that criteria. And if we look down and just in our basic Excel functionality, we can see that some of those three cells is the 290, 953, and sure enough, that's what it returned here. So another way to kind of use wildcards in reporting. Now let's see if we can actually build a balance sheet. So let's kill all that, make some space. And we'll just actually see about how would we actually go about building an actual report. Okay, so what we're going to do to start with, generally, is we'll start with some header information here. And I'm just going to kind of use all caps for today's purposes. Okay, so now come over here. And we'll put in some of our headers that we're going to want in our report. So we're going to make this like a super condensed balance sheet. Okay, so we've got kind of got our layout here. And we'll widen this up so we can kind of see our fields here better. And then we'll put some stuff in here, some formulas. So since this is a balance sheet, we need a closing balance. And what we'll do is we'll do some GL links here. So what we're going to do, I think we're going to come over here, and we could potentially hide these at a later time if we wanted to. But we're going to go ahead and just put some main accounts in here. And I'm showing you a couple of different styles. So here we have the main account plus another main account. Actually, that one needs fixed. That's supposed to be a 101. And this one here is we're going to use the 2, which does the same thing. So it's another way of doing that. And let's see, our equity is 300 to 399. And then for our retained earnings, pretty much everything else. And then we'll see if we can put our links in here. And that's going to be, looks like it's going to be B8. Okay, and then we're going to format that with a comma, and we're going to just copy that everywhere we think we might need it. And now what we're going to do is, if we want to flip the sign on this, all we got to do, just like any other formula in Excel, is just put the negative sign in front of that to kind of flip it. Okay, so far so good. And let's see if this thing balances. Okay. Just use my basic auto sum for that. And then this would be equal to that. Okay. Now at this point we would, we'd pretty it up. A lot of people might hide those like that. We could have, centered these across the columns if we wanted to. But basically you're just doing cosmetic formatting at this point. So whatever you wanted to do, you can do here. So that's a quick and dirty balance sheet. How about that at even balances? Now what we're going to do is we're going to just take a look, since we're running out of time here, we're going to take one last look at another report that'll kind of put the whole picture together for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and close that. And then I'm going to go ahead and run this one here, if I can find it real quick. Here is a report we're going to run that's taking a look at the income statement example, but we're taking it up a few notches in a couple places. And normally if I have more time at the end of the demo, I go into this a little bit more. So we're going to kind of cut to the chase on it. But here is a report template that I've built. And what's cool about this, it's got one column of data. One of the things that's interesting about this report that's different is you'll notice that in this particular report, we're actually having formulas to populate the actual fiscal year as well as the fiscal period. So what will happen here is if I come over here to my place where I put in where I'm storing my year and period, if I change this period 5 here to say being a 12, it automatically updates the headers in the years down below. So if I change it to a 5, now it's period 5, and notice as it's going back in time for the 12 rolling periods of the last year, whatever that is, it automatically updates these years and periods here. So if you take a look at that formula for the year, kind of what it's doing is it's doing an if statement. It's looking at the B3 there, and it's doing some math with it, and it's saying depending on the value of the math, return one or the other of these values. So it's either returning the current year up there, or in this case, it's subtracting 1 from it. The month's doing something similar, very similar in fact. What it's doing is it's a little bit different though. It actually is subtracting 2 in the formula in this case, or subtracting 3, subtracting 4, depending on how many periods back from the base period it is. So that's kind of a cool feature. This one, the actual formulas for the actual income statement itself are using some of the absolute cell referencing you can see there. And what's cool is if you build your template with this type of structure in place, it makes it really easy to expand it. So I can just highlight this whole column once I've got the structure in place. And rather than build all these one by one, I can just bring that right on over there, and it just populated my whole statement. So if you take the time to use these formulas the right way, it can really save you a ton of time. Okay, so that's the kind of a drag and drop functionality that goes with it. And then basically what you do at this point is you save this, and then you're able to rerun it at any point in time. You have it permanently. Is there any questions on that? We're kind of out of time for today's demo, so I wanted to give an opportunity to have anybody ask any questions.
Okay, it doesn't look like there's any questions. I'm not seeing anything in the chat window, so we'll go ahead and conclude this webinar. Please note that you will be receiving a follow-up from me. I'll be sending all of those out today for all of this week's webinars. If you have any questions, you will have my email address, but if you want to call in, please ask for Sherry Palumbo, Account Manager, and we'll be sure to follow up with you. Bruce, I want to thank you for a nice detailed presentation, and everyone have a wonderful weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.